Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics. First, the highlights. More reactions to high fuel pump price across the country following removal of fuel subsidy. Bayelsa State government commissions over 100 buses to cushion the effect of fuel subsidy removal. Plus, Surulere constituents protest alleged attempts to impose candidates for the Surulere 1 federal constituency seat. Welcome to the program. I'm Millicent Walker in Lagos. Now, as Nigerians lament the recent increase in the cost of fuel, governors elected under the platform of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC, they've given their word that they are in the final stages of plans with the federal government to provide post-fuel subsidy removal palliatives to Nigerians. The chairman of the Progressives Governors Forum and Imo State Governor, Senator Hope Uzodimma, gave this assurance in Abuja at the end of a meeting of the governors. Senator Uzodimma also said that after reviewing the resignation of the party's former national chairman, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, and the secretary, Senator Iyola Omishore, the governors are satisfied that the actions of the two leaders were voluntary. The Progressives Governors Chairman, however, admits that the removal of fuel subsidy has increased the revenue base of the Federation account to be shared by the federal, state and local governments.
Controversial social media posting of our upcoming FAQ. We are aware that the result of the removal of petroleum subsidy will increase the volume of money that will be received by us during the Federation account meeting. And we are working with federal government to ensure that the proceeds of that FAQ will be utilized in a manner that the citizens of the country are happy, the labor happy, we also, the practitioners, happy. And also the economy of the country will be protected. Our economic managers supported to ensure that our solvency margin is not tampered with in the international market. Instead, it will be improved upon. So what has happened is something that we should be happy about. The current hardship occasioned by the price increase on both food, petroleum products, and cost of living is being addressed. The subnational government is working with the federal government. You must have heard of the resignation of the national chairman of our party and the national secretary of the party. Those are voluntary actions that have been taken, and with due respect to our former national chairman and secretary, we commended the wisdom in what they have done, and they served us well in the party. We're happy with their services, and the party is united. There's no crisis in the party. They are happy. We also are happy.
Well, some state governors are already going ahead attempting to cushion the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy. The governor of Bayelsa State, Oyedere, inaugurated 106 prosperity transportation vehicles to boost intra-city transport system in Yenagoa and its environs. According to the governor, the new transport scheme will help cushion the effect of the fuel subsidy removal and alleviate the sufferings of Bayelsans as a result of the ban in tricycle operations at night. At the official launch of the scheme, Governor Dewey charged the operators of the transport scheme, the Bayelsa State Transport Company, to consider the current realities of the country before fixing their rates on the different routes.
Bayelsans are very, very intelligent, and I'm sure with people like you, we will have a high turnover of these vehicles, and these vehicles will be able to replace themselves. In other words, we will continue to have more vehicles and we'll continue to have more people, more drivers that will be engaged. From today, by the time you finish your training, not over 100 Bayelsa drivers will be engaged. And today has come to mark the end of what we have been suffering by virtue of the ban on tricycles in the night, and by virtue of the new policies that has led to the increase in transportation fares, and by the multiplier effect and by implication, increase in the prices of foods, stuffs, and every other thing. But we believe that this will now be our own palliative for now at the land sector.
Meanwhile, the National Orientation Agency says it will mobilize support for the removal of fuel subsidy in various parts of the country. The Director General of the agency, Mr. Garba Barry, explains that the strategy is aimed at helping Nigerians understand what to expect in the unfolding petroleum industry ecosystem. He stated this during an evaluation meeting on the sensitization strategy in the nation's capital.
We did the sensitization on the Petroleum Industry Act in anticipation of the shock that might ensue when the full-blown deregulation of the sector sets in, as we are presently experiencing. We need to sustain the sensitization on subsidy removal as well as the advocacy to get public buy-in. The recent price hike in the price per litre of petrol is being seen by the public as another increase in the price of petrol by the government. This is a wrong impression, and the public needs to be educated on this. What is actually happening is the new reality in the petroleum industry ecosystem under the regulation. Prices will go up and down depending on market forces. This is the reality under deregulation, and the people need to be aware.
More reactions are still pouring in on the impact of the hike in fuel. Businessman and co-founder of Sahara Group, Mr. Toyeko, a guest on our political program yesterday, shared what he called critical and urgent measures that can be effective to ameliorate the impact facing businesses and households in the country.
When you are a nation that does not produce much, and everything you do, remember you have petrol on this side, but everything you do is seeking dollars to import. You import a shirt, import a cap, import your shoes, import toothpick, import whatever. Forget the petrol that you're importing, leave that one for now. Where you are importing everything else, you're putting pressure on the dollar. Once you begin to put pressure on the naira, and the dollar rate begins to increase, you come back to that issue that you are importing petrol. Now, remember that there's no subsidy now. Market forces on this side are now affecting the price of petrol in dollars. When you then translate it back to naira, you get what you are seeing today. And who feels the brunt? It's the people who have no business with dollars, the people whose business is in naira and kobo. But everything that is affecting them is what is happening in the dollar market. And one of the things that you must begin to do is ensure that there is a productivity culture within Nigeria. What is putting pressure on your foreign exchange? Answer that question. The issue of foreign exchange is that we import almost everything that we don't need. So inflation is an issue, and we must deal with inflation. Now, inflation is a basket of things, and one of the principal areas is food. Your food basket. What is the food security that you're putting in? I see that the president is working on giving fertilizers, giving crops and all of that. That will take time for harvest. But fair enough, you need to deal with that aspect of it. The next aspect of it has to do with transportation. What are you going to do about that? What are you going to do about fares for people going to work, coming back and all of that? What do you need to do? And so government has to begin to work on issues of how do they transport people? How do they move people, masses from one place to another? Now, you are dealing for a short period with a form of reverse subsidy by giving people, which is what the palliatives would have been, giving people direct to their pockets in the areas that affect them. The question, and the big question, elephant in the room, is what are you going to do with the dollar? Because until you begin to address that aspect, we have an issue.
Well, here's an outlook of our correspondents who are still monitoring the impact of the price hike and also feeling the pulse of citizens on the potential and existing effects posed in the northwest region. While few marketers deplore low patronage of the product, some residents have resorted to walking to their destinations as the cost of transportation is on the rise. Our correspondent Chidi sheds more light on this.
Prior to the increase, fuel was sold at a lower price range of 540 to 560. However, after the hike, the cost of fuel has risen to 620 across all the states in the region. One of the major consequences of this price increase is the impact on public transportation, making it significantly harder for low-income earners to afford their daily movement. Many residents have been forced to seek alternative means of transportation, such as walking or cycling, to cope with the situation. This shift in transportation method has affected the overall mobility and accessibility of the region's population. In Jigawa State, for instance, the fuel price increase has resulted in the closure of many filling stations. Those that remain open are facing low patronage due to the higher fuel costs. This has not only affected transportation but also led to economic challenges for fuel station owners and their employees. Some filling stations changed their pump price at around 12 noon, while people were still on queue. Interestingly, one man refused to pay the new price and asked the filling station's attendant to suck out the fuel from his tank.
I have been here for the first 1 hour. That boy just left me and started talking to one woman. Never know say they have raised the fuel price. To call his attention now was telling me it's 620 naira. Wow. Is it a new stock or old stock? We are using old stock. Look at the other vehicle there now, waiting for fuel to be withdrawn. But still they are saying 620, using the twinkle of an eye. Where are we heading to as Nigerians? Is there any justification in it? In less than 10 minutes, somebody was here before me. He buy fuel at the rate of 520, 540. Now they are selling difference of 800 naira.
Back to Kano State where we are right now. The state has seen its street relatively busier compared to other states in the region. Most likely because of the delay in changing the pump price to the new price. However, despite the filling stations adjusting to the new price, citizens are still grappling with the economic strain caused by the increase in transportation costs.
Lunchtime Politics returns right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We head to the judiciary where the Supreme Court of Nigeria has debunked the rumor that the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwoola, had a telephone conversation with the president or anyone else on the ongoing election petition hearing on the 2023 presidential election. The Apex Court says Justice Ariwoola neither spoke with President Bola Tinubu nor the Director General of the Department of State Services with a view to pressurizing the tribunal on the likely judgment to give in respect of the petitions. The Director of Press and Information, Supreme Court of Nigeria, Dr. Akonde Festus, made the clarification in a statement yesterday. Now, part of it reads, Nigerians have been following the proceedings at the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal with admirable enthusiasm, so it is advisable we all sustain the tempo and follow it up to the end, instead of relapsing into the realm of speculations and rumor peddling that will not do anyone any good. It notes that the nation may not make the desired progress in the face of such falsehood and mudslinging, adding that no one will ever be favoured against the other in any dispute. According to the Apex Court, the facts presented and the subsisting laws must be applied in determining the merit or otherwise of each case. Well, in the meantime, the former chairman of Nigeria's National Human Rights Commission, Professor Chidi, reacted to the remarks made by the Chief Justice of Nigeria that he didn't have any telephone conversation with the president or anyone else considering the presidential election petition. Speaking yesterday on our political program, Professor Dikalu said the public has lost its trust in the judicial system. He asserted that the Apex Court and judges should come to terms with their vast trust deficit and put in place countermeasures in addressing the growing issues.
The judiciary lives with a massive trust deficit. I'm not going to come here now and say, I don't believe the Supreme Court and what they said. But the Supreme Court and judges have got to realize that there is a vast trust deficit, and it is up to them to address it properly and transparently. We've got to admit there is a problem. There is a problem with judicial credibility. And this credibility crisis arises almost always in party political cases and election petitions. It goes back to the 1979 election. Since we have been in the presidential system, judges have increasingly played a role in adjudicating election disputes. Up to 2003, I think it was tolerable. After 2003, we went into a new territory in which judges began to decide who won and lost elections, started adding and subtracting numbers. And with that, the levels of money being thrown at judges in order to buy decisions began to change. The corruption, therefore, and this is not about saying this is about judges alone, because politicians are involved, senior lawyers are involved. The ICPC has in fact certified that this is the case. That there was an ICPC report on this in 2020. So I'm not manufacturing anything here. And judges have a responsibility. It is not mudslinging. People cannot trust the judiciary anymore. That is fact. And there are facts, credibly attested facts, to support that.
Joining me in the studio here in Lagos is the Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Wahab Shitu. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for inviting me.
It's rather interesting. We've heard from Professor Dinkalu, who has talked about what he listed as some sort of practices, specific instances, money thrown at judges, senior lawyers, politicians who are complicit, ICPC's indictment, that there is no trust in the judiciary. Is this something that you agree with?
Well, let me say clearly that I have a lot of respect for Professor Chidi Dinkalu. But I know that he also is concerned. His views is out of concern. But I haven't said that I must disagree with him, because I don't think it is in the interest of the system. I also don't think it is in the interest of democracy, respect for the rule of law, and the institution itself for us to make such sweeping generalizations about the image of the judiciary. Because if we partake in rubbishing the institution, the alternative is anarchy. I think the approach that I think we should adopt is the approach that will rekindle people's confidence in the judiciary, an approach that will forestall anarchy. I don't share the view that the CJN and the top echelon of the judiciary are corrupt. I don't share that view at all. I know that the CJN that I know, and some of these judges that have been unfairly attacked in the public space, are men of sterling integrity, discipline, and conviction. And you know, judges, by virtue of their nature, they are only to be seen and not heard. Well, granted, there could be some few bad eggs in the system, because the judiciary may also be a reflection of the rot in the general society. But I don't think it is fair to impose a general label on the judiciary. The judiciary is an important institution if we are to strengthen our democracy, promote rule of law, and guarantees all the fundamental, principles, underlining the democratic tradition. What we should preach and what we should emphasize is an integrity-driven judiciary. There's no judiciary anywhere in the world that is perfect. You could have some few bad eggs who try to, whip out of line. But the system has inbuilt, control mechanisms to deal with these situations. I've seen a lot of commentaries in the public space. I think we should give the judiciary the benefit of the doubt. And I think if we persist in condemning the activities of the judiciary, they are making a lot of sacrifices. It's not easy. Most of them, carry out this assignment under very, very difficult circumstances. I think the best we could do is to encourage them. And then we could also activate a mechanism for checking the few barriers in the system in order to weed them out.
Does that mean that the current mechanism is not strong enough?
No, it could be strengthened. It could be strengthened. We have mechanisms in place to check all forms of abuse within the judiciary. But what I'm saying is that we should further strengthen them. And our stakeholders, whether as lawyers, academics or scholars, we owe it a sacred, responsibility not to embark on speculations and conjectures. Because, judiciary itself is founded on the principle of justice, which is also a direct result of the element of proof. The question you ask is, where is the proof? If you accuse anybody, no matter how high, because no matter how high anybody is, the law is bigger. But you must have cogent, compelling, credible proof before you come to the public space and rub these reputations. So I think it is important that we allow this process that is on to go on seamlessly. If you want to find faults, if you want to critique the system, then look for proof. That's what I'm saying.
But perhaps there's maybe, do you think that there's perhaps undue pressure with the Presidential Election Petition Court, all of the tribunals that are happening at the same time across the state?
Of course, there's a lot of pressure. And then we don't compound this pressure by unfounded allegations. This Chief Justice that I know of the Federation is a man of impeccable integrity. He's a man of deep knowledge. And he's a man who is interested in the reform process in the judiciary. He has an open door policy. I don't think he associates with any of the political characters that are around. He wants to. I think if you want justice to be effectively delivered, the first condition that we must all satisfy is to invest faith and reinvest faith in the judiciary.
Do you think
the alternative to that is anarchy?
Do you think we have an independent judiciary?
Well, we have a judiciary that strives to be independent. We have not really got there. It's a journey. It's not we have not arrived at the destination yet. So I think the advocacy that all of us must subscribe to, including you, because you're a member of the judiciary before we donate you to journalism. The advocacy should be, how do we strengthen our judiciary? How do we have in place a judiciary with zero tolerance for corruption? How do you have a judiciary that is integrity-driven, reform-oriented, that has zero tolerance for delays, that is able to restore confidence in the common man? This is what should be the advocacy. So I recommend the four-way test of Rotary. Before you make any comment on the activity of the judiciary, ask yourself these 4 questions. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And lastly, you ask yourself whether it is beneficial to all concerned. Because the judiciary is our collective property. It's the institution all of us look up to deliver justice. And those who are charged with the responsibility of delivering this justice must be encouraged, not condemned. And if we must condemn them, we must have critical element of proof.
It's an
Very
issue
important.
we'll still be talking about. We appreciate your time, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Wahab Shitu. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, there seems to be a brewing controversy trailing the election of a new House of Representative member to fill up the seat left vacant by the new Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila. Some of the aspirants who spoke during a press conference in Lagos alleged that there was an attempt to force a candidate on the people. They're seeking for the intervention of party leaders at both state and federal levels. Well, you've been served lunch at this time. Many thanks for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Bye for now.